The sapphire glow of Proxima 9 was mesmerizing, casting these crazy shadows as I collected soil samples near a massive crystal formation. I was Nico Reyes, a xenobiologist, 6 months into humanity's very first deep space expedition. It was thrilling. I'd already found 17 new biological compounds that could change everything back on Earth. Suddenly, my gear started acting up. "Base camp, I'm picking up unusual energy readings," I radioed in. "About 30 meters north. I'm going to check it out before the solar flare window closes." The reply was a mess of static. Return, immediately, unidentified." Classic comms trouble, I thought. But then I looked at the horizon. The stars were shimmering like a heat haze, but there was no atmosphere here. It was something else. I reached for my scanner, but before I could even lift it, the air itself ripped open. A sound like tearing fabric echoed in the silence of space. A ship emerged from the rift, and it was nothing like ours. It looked both organic and metallic, with veins of purple energy pulsing across its dark obsidian hull. Before I could process what I was seeing, a beam of light shot out and engulfed me. The ground, the moon, everything just vanished. I woke up in a cell. A transparent, glowing cell. My bulky expedition suit was gone, replaced by this sleek, silver jumpsuit. I looked around and saw other cells, some holding creatures I couldn't even begin to describe. Others just empty. The whole place was a paradox of terrifying beauty, with architecture that seemed to bend the rules of physics. Then, a voice. It sounded like shattering glass putting itself back together. "Subject demonstrates higher cognitive patterns than anticipated." A figure glided towards my cell. It was tall, thin, with 4 long limbs and skin like an oil slick on water. "You will provide information on Earth's defensive capabilities," it stated. "Who are you? Why am I here?" I yelled, my hands flat against the energy barrier. "We are the Voidborn," the being replied, its voice devoid of any emotion. "Your world occupies territory we require. You will assist our conquest, or you will observe the extinction of your species." The days that followed were a blur of interrogations and strange, invasive tests. I learned the horrifying truth. The Voidborn were cosmic locusts, consuming entire planets for resources and then moving on. And Earth was their next meal. But even in my despair, I started to notice things. Little details. The guards changed shifts every 12 hours, like clockwork. The energy barrier of my cell flickered for just a millisecond whenever a smaller ship docked with this massive mothership. These were tiny cracks in their perfect machine, but they were cracks nonetheless. Maybe, just maybe, enough for a plan. About 2 weeks into my captivity, all hell broke loose. Alarms blared and the lights shifted to a deep blood-red emergency glow. Void-born soldiers scrambled past my cell in a panic. Through a viewport I saw it, something colossal and serpentine, wreathed in cosmic fire, circling the ship like a predator. And then my cell barrier just dissolved. It fizzled out of existence. I froze. This had to be a trap. But then a new voice spoke, not through the air, but directly inside my head. "Come now, human. Your window of escape is brief." Standing in the chaotic corridor was a woman. Her eyes were the color of molten amber, burning with an inner light. Her skin had a faint, shimmering pattern of scales at her temples and wrists, and she moved with a grace that was beautiful and utterly inhuman. "Who?" I started to ask, but she cut me off. "I am Serafina," she said, holding out her hand. The entire ship shuddered from another impact. "And if you wish to live, you will trust me now." I looked at her outstretched hand, then at the chaos erupting all around us. I had no other choice. I took her hand. Thank you so much for watching this story unfold. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss what happens next. See you in the next video. The escape pod shot out from the Void-born vessel, slamming me against Serafina. Even in the freezing vacuum of space, her skin felt impossibly warm. Through the tiny viewport, I watched the mothership shrink, strange lights flashing around it as some unseen battle raged on. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Serafina's fingers danced across a holographic control panel. "Luminaric Sanctum," she said, her voice calm and steady. "A realm between realities where my kind has lived for millennia." I stared at her, confused. "Your kind?" Her amber eyes flickered towards me. "We are the Luminarics. You might call us dragons, though that word barely scratches the surface of what we are." Before I could process that, the pod lurched forward, accelerating faster than anything I'd ever experienced. Stars blurred into streaks of pure light. I felt a strange sensation, like falling through water, as we passed through a shimmering tear in space itself. When the world came back into focus, I gasped. We were surrounded by a breathtaking celestial landscape. Floating islands drifted through swirling nebulae and cosmic storms, each one covered in impossible structures that seemed to grow right out of crystalline rock. Our pod docked with the largest island, a massive, suspended continent with spires that reached for distant stars. As the hatch hissed open, I felt the gravity shift, lighter than Earth, but solid. "Welcome to Etheria," Serafina said, leading me onto a platform of iridescent stone. A council of beings was waiting for us. Some looked human, but with subtle draconic features, slitted pupils, or a faint shimmer of scales on their skin. Others were more otherworldly, part humanoid, part magnificent creature of scale and wing. An elder with silver-streaked hair and eyes that looked like swirling galaxies stepped forward. "This is the human?" he asked, his voice echoing with ancient power. "The one from the prophecy?" Serafina nodded. "Counselor Thalon, yes. This is Nico Reyes, xenobiologist of Earth." I couldn't help but jump in. "Prophecy? I was abducted during a research mission. There's nothing prophetic about getting kidnapped." Thalon's expression softened. "There are no accidents in the cosmos, young one. The Voidborn seek your world because they sense what we have known for ages. Earth stands at a crucial nexus of galactic fate." Over the next few days, I was given a room in a living tower that seemed to respond to my thoughts. Serafina became my guide, showing me the wonders of Etheria and explaining the history of the Luminarics. They were ancient guardians who had withdrawn from the physical realms as younger species like ours rose to prominence. "We observed Earth for centuries," she told me one evening as we walked through gardens of glowing, bioluminescent plants. "Humans possess a resilience we admire, and a capacity for both great destruction and profound compassion." We watched as cosmic fish swam through the air between the floating islands. "But why save me specifically?" I asked. Serafina's gaze lingered on me. "Your mind has a pattern. It's rare among humans. You can perceive the energy we call the flux. With training, you might even learn to channel it." I stared at her, skeptical. "You're saying I can learn dragon magic?" A small smile touched her lips. "I'm saying that tomorrow your real training begins, and it will break you before it remakes you." That night, looking out at the swirling cosmos from my balcony, I thought of Earth, my home, completely unaware of the monstrous threat heading its way, with no defense against the Voidborn. I made a silent promise to my distant planet, a promise to find a way back before it was too late. I didn't know it then, but in the room below, Serafina was watching my silhouette against the stars, feeling the immense weight of that ancient prophecy. Was I to be their greatest ally, or their final mistake? Thanks for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time. Welcome, story lovers, to another journey into the extraordinary. Today we step into a realm of floating islands and cosmic mists, a world known as Etheria. Here, a human named Nico finds himself facing a destiny far greater than he ever imagined. In a circular arena, under a sky that knows no sun, he stands before Seraphina, his dragon-like mentor. She's shed her robes for armor, her form lithe and powerful. "The flux flows through all living things," she tells him, her voice a low hum. For her people, the Luminarics, channeling this cosmic energy is instinct. For Nico, a human, it's a mountain to climb, a challenge that requires breaking every mental barrier he has. Thus began Nico's transformation. The training was brutal, pushing his body beyond any limit he thought possible. Each day was a cycle of exhaustion and rebirth, his muscles screaming in protest, only to be forced into action again at Etheria's strange dawn. But the physical trials were only half the battle. Seraphina guided him through deep meditation, teaching him to quiet his mind and sense the invisible currents of energy flowing around them. At first, there was nothing but silence and darkness. But slowly, persistently, a new sense began to awaken. He started to perceive the flux, not with his eyes, but with his soul, as intricate patterns of light and vibration. The weeks of struggle, of constant failure, all melted away the moment it happened. A small, brilliant flame flickered to life in his palm, a direct result of his will. He looked up to see an expression of pure pride on Seraphina's face, and in that instant, every ache and every doubt became worthwhile. As they shared a meal of strange, exotic fruits one evening, Seraphina watched him with a curious intensity. "You're progressing faster than any human should," she remarked, a hint of awe in her voice. "Perhaps the prophecy isn't just an old story after all." The word hung in the air between them. "Prophecy?" Nico asked, intrigued. "Tell me about this prophecy everyone keeps mentioning." Seraphina hesitated, the firelight dancing across the subtle, iridescent scales at her temples. "It speaks of a bridge between worlds," she finally said. "Someone who would unite dragon and human, a champion to stand against a darkness that devours entire stars." Their eyes met across the table. In that charged silence, Nico realized with a start that his respect for his mentor had deepened into something more, something that made his heart beat a little faster. His training intensified. It was no longer just about combat and energy manipulation. The elders of Etheria, including the wise Thealon, joined Seraphina. They taught him galactic history, complex political strategies, and the art of war on a cosmic scale. He learned that the terrifying Voidborn were just one of many dangers lurking in the vast, star-strewn universe. 3 months passed in a blur of learning and growth. Then, one day, during their daily sparring session, the unthinkable happened. Seraphina, who moved with the grace of a living storm, stumbled. Nico reacted instantly, catching her before she could fall. Concern flooded him as he held her close. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice tight. Her eyes were unfocused, looking at something far, far away. "Earth," she whispered, her voice trembling. "The Voidborn. They've begun their assault." That night, the Council of Elders gathered. Through a powerful cosmic scrying, they projected images across the vastness of space. Nico watched in absolute horror as the scenes unfolded. Earth's orbital defenses, the pinnacles of human technology, were being torn apart by the monstrous Voidborn fleet. He saw cities he knew, cities he loved, consumed by fire. The silent screams of his people echoed in his soul. "I have to go back," he said, his voice raw and breaking. "Now." The elder Thalon shook his head gravely. "You would die in moments. Your training is incomplete." A surge of rage and desperation tore through Nico. "Then complete it!" he roared. The flux, tied to his emotions, exploded around him, crackling at his fingertips like raw lightning. Later, standing alone on his balcony, wrestling with his grief and helplessness, He felt her presence before he heard her footsteps. Serafina stood beside him, her silhouette framed by the starlight. "There is one way," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "A way to accelerate your connection to the flux." Nico turned, his eyes searching hers. "It's a bonding ritual. It's dangerous, and forbidden to attempt with anyone not of the Luminarics." He held her gaze, the fate of his world hanging in the balance. "What does it involve?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "A merging of our life energies," she replied, stepping closer until only inches separated them. "It would create a permanent link between us, a bond that could never be broken. In the ethereal glow of the cosmos, with Earth burning light years away, Nico made his choice. He reached out and took her hand. "Show me." Their first kiss was like touching a live wire, an explosion of pure energy that coursed through every fiber of their beings. This was the start of the ritual, a process that transcended the physical. Their minds, their very consciousness, flowed together. They saw through each other's eyes, felt each other's memories, and for a timeless moment, they were one. Stars burned behind their eyelids, and the secrets of the flux were laid bare. When dawn's gentle light touched Etheria, they awoke intertwined, forever changed. Nico could feel her, a warm, steady ember glowing within his own mind. He looked down at his arms and saw new, intricate patterns glowing softly on his skin. Serafina gently traced one of the lines with her finger, a small smile on her lips. "Now," she said, her voice filled with a new power that echoed in his own soul. "Now, you are ready to fight." What a powerful transformation. Nico is no longer just a man. He's a bridge between worlds, bonded to a dragon and armed with cosmic power. Thank you for joining us on this incredible part of his story. If you're as excited as I am to see what happens next, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you won't miss a single moment of this epic saga. We'll see you next time. The eggs throbbed, a frantic, pulsing rhythm echoing the tension in the cave. Keller's men swarmed around them, setting up cold, sterile equipment that felt alien in this ancient space. I stood beside Lydia, a prisoner in my own ancestral home. We didn't need words. A single glance between us spoke volumes. 3 days trapped in these caves had forged a bond between us, something deep and profound, mirroring the very connection to the past that was just starting to awaken within me. "The incubation chamber is ready, sir," one of Keller's technicians called out. Keller, his eyes glued to the largest, most vibrant egg, just nodded. "Prepare to move it." A primal instinct flared inside me. "Don't," I warned, my voice ringing with an authority that surprised even myself. It made everyone freeze. Keller turned, a smug, infuriating smile playing on his lips. "On the contrary, Martinez, I've spent my entire life understanding this. These creatures, they bonded with specific human bloodlines, creating symbiotic relationships that granted extraordinary abilities. Your ancestors were living weapons." "They were guardians," I shot back, the word feeling truer than anything I'd ever said. "Not weapons." Keller waved his hand dismissively. "Semantics. With modern technology and these specimens, we can recreate those bonds, controlled, weaponized, and very, very profitable." As his men moved towards the eggs, a jolt, like pure electricity, surged through my veins. The birthmarks on my skin, hidden beneath my shirt, began to glow with a life of their own. One of the mercenaries reached out to touch the largest egg. "I said don't!" I roared. The very air around me seemed to ignite. A shockwave of pure force erupted, throwing the men backward. I was at the epicenter, my eyes burning with the same amber light as my marks. In the chaos, Lydia broke free and rushed to my side. "Sebastian!" Her touch was like an anchor, grounding the wild energy that threatened to consume me. The flames receded, but they didn't vanish, flickering around me like a protective aura. "I can feel them, Lydia," I whispered, my voice filled with awe. "They're alive, conscious. They're waiting." Keller was back on his feet in an instant, his gun trained squarely on Lydia. "Impressive display, Doctor. Now control it or she dies." I froze, the fire dimming. "You need me alive," Lydia said, her voice steady, her brilliant mind already piecing it all together. "The journals mentioned pairs, guardian and keeper. The keeper preserves knowledge, moderates the connection." She looked at me, a spark of sudden realization in her eyes. "That's why we found each other. I'm supposed to be your keeper." Keller's grin confirmed it. "Clever girl. Yes, the symbiosis works best with complementary pairs, which is why neither of you will die. You'll simply cooperate." Taking advantage of the standoff, I reached for Lydia's hand. The moment our fingers touched, the chaotic power inside me stabilized, focusing into a sharp, clear point. "The temple," I murmured, a flood of instinctual knowledge filling my mind. "It's not just for preservation, it's a hatching ground." She understood immediately. Lydia squeezed my hand, and I channeled all my energy into the stone floor. Ancient circuits, dormant for millennia, hummed back to life. The entire temple began to vibrate with power. "Stop them!" Keller screamed, but he was too late. The chamber sealed itself, trapping us all inside as the floor began to descend like a giant elevator. We dropped into a vast, breathtaking cavern, alive with bioluminescent light that pulsed in perfect sync with my glowing marks. At its center lay a pool of steaming, geothermal water. The platform stopped at its edge. "What is this place?" Keller demanded, his composure finally cracking. "A sanctuary," I replied, the truth flowing into me from the temple itself. "The last of their kind retreated here when the world changed." The eggs pulsed faster, cracks spiderwebbing across their surfaces. "They're hatching," Lydia whispered, her fear replaced by scientific wonder. The largest egg split open, and a creature from a forgotten age emerged. It was scaled but feathered, with intelligent eyes that locked onto mine. It unfurled shimmering, iridescent wings, its presence ancient and wise. Then a thought, not a sound, echoed in all our minds. Guardian, at last. More eggs hatched, the newborns imprinting on us. But while most looked to me with reverence, two approached Keller with a curious gaze. His shock morphed into triumph. "They recognize power," he sneered, reaching out. "No," I countered. "They sense intention. They're giving you a choice." The creatures regarded him with knowing eyes. "Domination or guardianship?" the thought came. As Keller hesitated, I turned to Lydia. In the ethereal light, she was stunning, strong, brilliant, and looking at me with an emotion that left me breathless. I took both her hands. "I never believed in destiny until I met you," I said softly. "Now I understand." Lydia smiled, tears shining in her eyes. "A scientist shouldn't believe in fate." "What about love?" I asked. "Do scientists believe in that?" She answered with a kiss, a deep, passionate promise that sealed our connection. When we separated, the creatures had formed a protective circle around us. Behind us, Keller made his choice. His eyes burned with greed as he reached for the creatures. "No!" I shouted, but it was too late. They recoiled from his touch, their wings flaring with defensive fire. The sanctuary itself rumbled as his men scattered in panic. I pulled Lydia close as the ground began to shake violently. "Hold on to me," I whispered. "This isn't over yet." Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss what happens next. We'll see you in the next one. Picture this: a colossal alien mothership, a dark scar across the crimson sky of Mars. It's the Voidborn, and they're not here to make friends. This is the stage for a desperate gambit, a final crazy push to save not one, but two civilizations. Our story follows Nico, a human with a rare gift. He can touch the flux, a cosmic energy that connects him to Seraphina, a warrior of the Luminarics, a race of ancient energy-based dragons. Together, they lead a mixed team of elite human soldiers and shape-shifting dragon warriors on a suicide mission. Their target? The heart of the Voidborn mothership. As Nico expertly pilots their ship through a storm of enemy fire, he feels Seraphina's mind at work through their unique bond. She finds a crack in the enemy's shield, a 3-second window. Just enough. They slip through, landing deep within the belly of the beast. The clock is ticking. They have 20 minutes before the main coalition fleet engages, and they need to plant their charges and get out. The ship itself fights back. Corridors twist and shift, the very air turning against them. It's a living nightmare. But they push on, a seamless unit of human grit and Luminarix power. The humans marvel as their alien allies shift their limbs into gleaming weapons, a fluid dance of combat and form. Then, disaster. A hulking Voidborn commander appears, a monster straight out of humanity's darkest fears. The firefight is brutal. 2 Luminarix fall, dissolving into pure light. Seraphina takes a devastating hit while shielding a human soldier, the injury so severe it forces her partially back into her true, draconic form. Nico feels her agony as if it were his own. The team's captain shouts for him to get her to safety, to leave them to finish the mission. But Nico refuses. We do this together, or not at all. Their bond isn't just a tool, it's their strength. The final push is a desperate blur of courage and sacrifice. They reach the core, a pulsating transdimensional engine. As they race to place the destabilizers, the Voidborn commander smashes through their defenses. The last of the human soldiers fall. It's just Nico and Seraphina alone against the monster. Your species are but a momentary distraction, the creature hisses. We have consumed 1,000 worlds. Then we'll be the last, Nico replies. He draws on the flux, and with Seraphina channeling her fading strength into him, they unleash a final, earth-shattering blast. The commander is destroyed, but Seraphina collapses. The ship is tearing itself apart around them. Leave me, she whispers, too weak to escape. But Nico won't. He closes his eyes, digs deep into their bond, and for the first time, initiates a transformation himself. He becomes a vessel of pure energy, enveloping them both and streaking away from the imploding mothership, a comet of hope against the void. Back on Earth, the world is changed forever. The Voidborn are in retreat. The Luminarix, the dragons from the stars, offer an alliance. At the center of it all are Nico and Seraphina. They are no longer just human and dragon, but something entirely new, a bridge between 2 worlds. They build a new institution, the Celestial Concord, a place where humans can learn the ways of the stars and dragons can rediscover the beauty of the physical world. Standing on the highest tower, watching new dragons born on Earth take flight, Seraphina says, "The most beautiful things grow at boundaries." And in that space between stardust and scales, a new future for both their peoples had just begun. Thanks so much for watching this epic tale unfold. If you love stories that bridge worlds and explore the bonds that save us, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing content. See you in the next one.